Hi everyone! So, I've been into art for a while, my whole life pretty much. However, I did not do any digital art until around 2020. That's also when I started sharing my art online. I like to look back at my old work at times, as painful and cringe inducing as it may be, and if I feel like it, I might even recreate it to really see my progress. That's exactly what I'm doing today. I picked out 5 pieces to redraw, one from each year, and I'm just gonna talk about my art journey, point out things I learned since then, maybe share some tips and tricks that I've come up with over the years. I find stuff like that really interesting, a trip down memory lane, if you will. So sit back, maybe get your sketchbooks or tablets out, and let's get into it. Alright, starting with 2020, now the most logical step would probably be to recreate my very first digital drawing, but I actually don't have it because I don't think I ever posted it. This drawing is technically the oldest drawing that I do have, but I distinctly remember making more before it. This one was done in Ibis Paint X, which I still use to this day, but I used Autodesk Sketchbook before that, or I tried to, at least. I don't think I made anything good in that, so I never posted any of it. So let's just say this piece is my first, but I wasn't really feeling it, so for the redraw I chose this one instead. It's a meet the artist kind of thing. I have at least something to work with, so I think it's a decent starting point. From afar, it's not that bad. I was expecting worse, honestly. Once I start zooming in, though... oof. So where do I start? Well, the colors aren't bad. I reused the purple from the earrings for the background. That's clever. My style was so geometrical back then. It's really square-shaped. Everyone just has these strong jaws and big chins. Big ears too. And the proportions overall are a little goofy looking. Not that art has to be proportional or whatever. I don't think that at all. Do what you want. The thing is, though, I was always trying to go for more realistic proportions, which is why I'm pointing that out. Did I study anatomy for that? No, because that would make sense. Instead, I just drew whatever until it looked right to me. The line art is pretty basic, kind of shaky in places because I actually drew on my phone back then, with my finger. I forgot. And I did it for a while. That's kinda nuts actually, now that I think back on it. I didn't even have a good phone. I always had to fight with my storage, and the screen wasn't very big. I actually feel kinda claustrophobic just thinking about it. Because of this, I actually did not sketch digitally. Obviously, small screen, couldn't see anything. And back then, Ibis did not have the reference window, so that's another thing. So what I did instead is I would draw the sketches on paper, take a photo and import it in the app, then draw over it. I did it for a while, even after I stopped drawing on my phone. I mean, it worked pretty well, though there were a couple times when people got confused and thought that I was tracing someone else's work, but that was easy to clear up. During that year, I mostly drew my own characters and some Monster High stuff. I have seen these specific drawings on Pinterest a bunch of times for some reason. I really don't know why, but okay. While I'm at it, I also want to point out the way I did the blush on these, specifically on the chin, the lines. I remember getting comment after comment about how it looks like a beard, and back then I would try and argue about it, like, no it doesn't. It does. It very much does look like that. Anyway, at some point I stopped adding blush to the chins entirely, but then it came back again, and I still add blush to the chins, but just a lot more subtle, and not in lines, just a little circle. To get back to the drawing itself, as I meet the artist, it's okay, I guess, nothing too crazy. I would make the items bigger, they're hard to see, especially with Instagram ruining the quality. There's a lot of empty space overall, and I would use a darker color for the text, maybe? I still have trouble with these, to be honest, even to this day. Drawing myself can be a challenge, then when it comes to the basic information, likes and dislikes, I just have zero clue what to put there. I think you can tell on the old drawing, I was just putting whatever. Most of it is still accurate. I like art. Duh. Big clothes. I actually don't remember the last time I wore a turtleneck. I don't like stuff around my neck. Plushies, cartoons. Sure. Yeah. I still hate tomatoes. I can't stand them. Sorry. Hold on. I put school But I already graduated by that point? Why did I put that there? I posted this a whole month after my graduation. I wasn't in school. I guess. Waking up early is really funny because I've been waking up at like 6 in the morning sharp every single day for the past like 4 months maybe. Just on my own. I don't even have anywhere to be. Okay, cool. It's also fun to look back on these and just see how I've changed, in terms of appearance specifically. 2020 was a very peculiar time for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well. At that time, I had a split dye purple and black buzz cut, my makeup was kinda crazy looking, and I wore really chunky, clunky earrings. I don't know how I did it, honestly. If I wore them right now, they would irritate the hell out of me. It's a product of its time, for sure. Now I have purple hair, and it's a lot longer, and my makeup fits my face better. I still like to experiment with my look and stuff like that, and sure, I might cringe when looking at my old photos or thinking about going out in public like that, but I had fun. And I felt more confident in myself than I do now, so maybe I was onto something. I did not do anything super crazy for the new drawing. Added the items I have on me most of the time, my bag, drew myself, obviously, and added my little persona because why not? I really like the face and the hair. The body got a little weird. I definitely put a lot less effort into that. But hey, on the old one is just a head, so I try to keep the colors more uniform, and it works for the most part. My wallet sticks out like a sore thumb, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's orange, with carrots on it, because of course it is. Still, I really like the result, I had fun drawing it, and I think the progress is pretty clear here. Moving on. Now, 2021 is when I enter my Dream SMP era. I can't not mention it. This drawing of Ranbu is what started it all. Simple, nothing crazy, but for the retro I chose this piece of the Bench Trio. I actually unironically still really like it. I mean, is it perfect? No, I can definitely see things that bother me, but it's cute. And I'm usually really picky and critical when it comes to my old work, even if it's just a few months old, let alone years. I like the colors a lot, I like how I rendered it. There's colorful hatching everywhere. I did yellow highlights, which I completely forgot about. That's kinda cool actually. This year was pretty experimental for me, I would say. I mainly drew Dream SMP, but also did some My Hero Academia stuff at the start. The pink, or I guess red noses were already there. Rectangles at first, which is an interesting choice. I don't remember where that came from at all. I wish I did. I don't know if I came up with it randomly or copied it from someone else. Either way, they will stick around to this day, just evolved. I was still drawing over traditional sketches. My line art is still quite wonky. I would just leave gaps in it for some reason. I don't like it. And the lack of a thicker outline just really sticks out to me. Now I do this thing where I draw around the edge of the line art one more time. I feel like that looks really nice and pulls it together more, especially if there's a background or other props. It just helps separate the character and point the viewer's attention to them. I feel like my colors get nicer at this point as well. I started experimenting with different color palettes, different brushes and techniques. Some of it stuck around, some got forgotten, but I might bring it back. I was using yellow for highlights, like I mentioned. Usually it fit pretty well, other times it either blended in too much or just didn't fit. My art style was still pretty angular, and all the faces I drew looked pretty much the same. That was my issue for a while, though I don't think that same face syndrome is as big of an issue as a lot of people make it out to be. I mean, drawing different features is incredibly useful, but that takes time to learn, if you even want to learn it anyway. For me, it was difficult to branch out of my comfort zone too much and play around with the facial features because I did not feel as secure in my style yet. Basically, I found the face that I felt comfortable drawing and just went with that. I actually don't remember receiving too many comments about it. It happens much later in my journey, I guess. Maybe since everything else about the characters is pretty distinct and different, the faces being basically the same wasn't as noticeable? I don't know. Also, half of the characters had basically the same hair, but that's besides the point. At one point, the noses became triangles. This drawing was the first with this change. I definitely like that much better than rectangles. Back then, I also did this thing where the background is my watermark. I guess it kind of adds texture, but now I just put my username on top of the drawing with the lowered opacity. The pupils were scribbles for some reason. At one point, I switched to a different brush. I don't remember which one, sadly, but it made my drawings look kind of fluffy, if that makes sense. I'm looking at some of these pieces and there's just hatching on everything, and texture, and this and that. It's so much, but it's also kind of subtle. Well, most times at least. Some of these look more hairy than fluffy. Most times it is quite nice looking. That goes for this piece as well. If I zoom in, there's just so much stuff going on, but it kind of blends together nicely. I like that actually. I don't know how I did that. My art is a lot smoother now. For the redraw, I went for a similar vibe, just the three of them lined up together, showing different emotions. Tabo is, I guess, cursing someone out. Tommy is just sad and depressed, and Ranbu is apologizing. On the original, their poses are very stiff, as well as their expressions. I made Tabo look forward instead of sideways, gave him a more obviously angry expression, even though you can't see his eyes. I fixed his anatomy a little bit. Not to say that I'm an expert at it now or anything, but his neck is way too skinny on the old piece. Come on. I also gave him some body hair to make the design more interesting. With Tommy, I didn't actually change the design at all, just made him look more visibly sad. He looks more angry in the original drawing, but I remember he was supposed to look sad. I don't know how I looked at that and thought, yeah, that's a sad expression. Same with Ranbu, they just look angry or annoyed instead of awkward. In the new drawing, I pushed that expression a lot more, and again, even though half of their face is obstructed, in this case they don't have a visible mouth, it's still possible. Push the eyes up, curve the eyebrows, add wrinkles and little sweat droplets, raise those shoulders and ears. I feel like now the emotion is much clearer, and I love how their face turned out so much. I changed their design quite a bit, mainly the outfit. I used to draw Ranbu in pretty normal clothes, just a button-up and a sweater. It's cute, but kind of doesn't fit in my opinion, so I gave them a completely new outfit that I think works for this kind of character a lot better. I also changed their horns to be less symmetrical. Everything else about the design remained the same. I love it, and I later made it into an OC because I can. Last adjustment I made is I made the colors more uniform. They're mostly the same, but I just reused the same colors for different elements. For example, Tabu's hair and the brown elements in Ranbu and Tommy's outfits are all the same shade of brown. Same with the base shades in Tabu's horns, Tommy's hat, Ranbu's clothing. I used the blue of the background for Tommy's eyes to tie that in as well. It also helps that it makes them look ghostly, and overall this just makes everything much better. This was very, very fun and super nostalgic. I love the result. It made me miss those times a little bit. The fan art side of the fandom was very fun and encouraged creativity. It really sparked my interest for character design and characters that are hybrids and full-on creatures. And I just feel like I made a lot of progress that year. Now, moving on. Now we're in 2022, and this year was also quite experimental for me. There were a lot of pieces I could choose for this, but I ultimately landed on this drawing of my character Oliver. I made this for my webtoon that I was trying to do back then. It's not great, but this was supposed to be like a bonus to one of the chapters. So it's around this time that I started drawing without a line art. This piece was the first time I did that. I didn't switch immediately, I still made a bunch of pieces with line art, but then stopped completely. And I drew that way for a while, and still do at times if I'm really feeling it, or for commissions. Mostly commissions. Speaking of which, 2022 is also when I started doing commissions. I wanted to for a while, but I just wasn't an adult yet, so I couldn't do it. So that's a fun development. And I finally stopped drawing on my freaking phone at that point. I got a Chromebook for my birthday, and mine is the kind that can be folded up and used as a tablet. This was the first drawing I made on it. I remember it took a while because I was getting used to a much bigger screen. Still couldn't sketch it digitally though. My style became a little bit more round by this point, the proportions are a little better. Faces are still very similar to one another, and by this point people were commenting on it. I was doing a lot of My Little Pony art, and this piece in particular earned me lots and lots of comments. A lot of them were not related to my skills necessarily, but a lot of them were about the same face syndrome. I did not agree at the time, but now I do. I very much do. Like, there is an attempt to make the faces different, but they're not very noticeable. Like I said, I just didn't feel as secure in my style, so I couldn't play with it much. The features are pretty much the same, the placement of those features is the same. There are a few exceptions where the eyes are rounder, but everything else is still very much the same. And again, I'm only saying this because it's my own art. I don't pay attention to that or notice it in other people's works. I'm just really self-critical. I just don't want anyone to take what I say personally. If this helps you, that's amazing, but don't let me dictate what you should do with your art. This is just a fun hobby. Do what you want. I also did some Monster High art that year and got into South Park. Did quite a bit of that. I want to mention these little things as well. They're like character sheets, I guess, for the main 6. These did quite well when I posted them, and I later made it into an option for my commissions. There were a few times when I experimented with some dramatic lighting. The attempts were amateur, of course. I'm still not that good at it though. At least I don't think I am. Now, to get back to the redraw, the old piece isn't awful, but kinda boring. The pose is super simple, the expression is... I don't know what it's supposed to convey, couldn't tell you. The idea is there. I changed a lot of things, went for a downward angle, changed the expression and moved the hand. Something that I do now also is when a character has dark eyes, I don't give them pupils, kind of like in real life, you can't see the pupil. Does it make sense for my style with white pupils? Perhaps not, but I don't care. The coloring on the old one isn't bad, it's getting closer to what I do now with a layered blush and some shading. Now I add more highlights though. His face is really long. I mean, it still is, kind of, but this is... yeah. The ears are really big still. You probably heard me say that. He has no lips as well. I didn't draw lips much. Fun fact, I actually redrew this piece about a year later, but I actually like it less than the first one. I don't know. Nicole's old design is a jump scare. Ugh. The redraw is not my favorite actually. It's definitely miles better than the old piece, but I don't know. Maybe I should have used a different color for the line art or something. It's okay. I'll always like it when Oliver is looking a little submissive.
You what?
Anyway, 2023. A lot of stuff was happening, and again, there were a lot of pieces I could choose from, but I decided on this drawing of Tree Hugger from My Little Pony. I feel like it showcases my style quite well as the issues it had at the time. The very start of that year is when I finally learned how to draw full bodies. Until then, I would cut the characters off at like mid-thigh, maybe below the knee. I just did not know how to do that. I used the symmetry ruler for this piece, and it shows, but hey, it's something. I did that for a little bit, then started drawing full poses by hand. The proportions are not the greatest. For a while I made the heads too small, and it really annoys me looking back on it. The faces started to become a little more distinct. I was having a lot more fun with the eyes and the noses. Speaking of which, at one point they evolved and became more nose-shaped instead of straight-up triangles. That's pretty much how I draw them to this day, just have a lot more variety in the shapes. I did a lot of redraws too. Clearly I like doing that. I also like to experiment with backgrounds and my coloring got better. The thing about not doing line art is the colors can blend into each other easily. In my older works that happens a lot. By now it's better. I was also doing a lot of blending and airbrushing. I don't do it as much anymore. One criticism I remember getting a lot is that the skin tones were kind of desaturated. My style overall was more desaturated back then, and it looked fine if I was picking every color. The problem came with my redesigns, especially My Little Pony ones. I would pick the colors directly from the original characters, and those are very bright and saturated. I would not change them at all, then combine that with the less saturated color of the skin. In contrast, the skin looks ashy and it's especially noticeable with the darker tones. And then I also like to add a purple overlay on top, and that definitely didn't help. I fixed that later, but that was a thing for me for a while. I drew a lot of South Park stuff, My Little Pony, some FNAF. Sometimes I drew my own characters, but not a lot. And I started this channel that year as well. Crazy. For the redraw, I didn't change much. The design stayed mostly the same, I just got rid of some of the accessories, gave her just golden jewelry instead of mixing a bunch of different stuff. The colors are much more saturated, I exaggerated the facial features more, made the eyes droopier, eyebrows bushier, nose more downturned. That's kind of the look I was going for in the original piece, just did not push it far enough. Same with the pose, it's not bad, but just very straight, you know? I pushed it a little more, tilted the head, bent her waist. It's not much, but adds a lot and just makes it look more interesting, I think. My proportions have gotten better too. Like I mentioned, I made the heads very small back then. I don't know why, but I did. Her feet are bigger than her head, bruh. Yeah. And again, not that all art has to be proportional, but that's what I was trying to go for, and failed. Kind of. It's not awful here, but not the best. I really like how this one turned out. I did forget about a few details, like the belly button piercing, but it's fine. I also gave her freckles and moles all over her body. That looks really pretty, I think. And yeah, that was 2023. Very interesting year for me. Okay, so I messed up here. I mixed the dates up and actually did two drawings from 2024. For some reason I thought this one was from 2023. It so clearly isn't, but okay. Then I also did this one from 2024 as well. I guess I'll just show you both. Might as well. 2024 started with a bunch of redraws, funnily enough. I noticed the small heads and made them bigger. Too big at times, but whatever. That still gets me sometimes, I don't know what it is. I still wasn't doing line art until I gave it a try with this piece of my character Cat. Then I did my first proper drawing challenge, also with Cat. It was the 10 art styles challenge, I have a video about it. I kinda killed it. Some of these are actually really good and I'm surprised that I did that. And I wasn't a drawing challenge person before this, just didn't enjoy them. And now I have a whole playlist of me doing art challenges. And I even made a couple of my own. I started drawing my characters more, did more redesigns, and then I really started drawing my characters. I took a bunch of OCs that I made back in middle school and redesigned them completely, gave them brand new stories, and embraced line art by this point. For a bit I kind of alternated between line art and no line art, but then it became almost exclusively line art. I mean, I still use the other style as well, just mostly for commissions or if I really feel like it. I did Cringetober that year for the first time. I've never done a big challenge like that before and it was kind of scary, but I had lots of fun with it. My rendering was kind of intense at this point, it's not as intense now. Anyway, the first piece that I redrew is this one of my character Elsa. I have talked about her a lot on this channel, but basically she's a witch and in this piece she's studying spells. There was an attempt at a background. I remember I had this specific picture of Tiffany Valentine in mind, but I did not have it in front of me. I either couldn't find it or didn't have Wi-Fi to get it. I don't know, I just remember I was drawing this from memory. Then I had absolutely zero guidance for the background, and it shows. I don't know what I was trying to do. It's not spooky or dynamic or good. Elsa doesn't look very evil either, and she's supposed to look evil. The shading is also kinda weird. I still don't really know how to do it though. Not like this, that's for sure. I changed the composition pretty heavily, made Elsa's face a lot more evil, better shading. I wouldn't say it's great, but better. I left the background dark. I feel like there's enough going on here already. Definitely not because I'm lazy. I like how the magic turned out. I was kind of just messing around, but I like it. The second piece is this one of my other character, Melanie. I still really like it. In universe, she's a model and this is one of her photo shoots. My line art was very thick here. I didn't even realize how much thinner it is now. I like the more intense shading. I'm pretty sure the reference I used had it. I tried to keep it in the redraw, but it doesn't look quite as intense, I don't think. I actually quite like the coloring on the old drawing. There are attempts at shading clothes, the jeans look nice. I think my main gripe are the proportions of the full body image. Now the head is too big. It makes Melanie look really short when she's the opposite. She's very tall and thin. So I changed that and played with the silhouette a little bit. I later changed her brows to blonde, so I added that as well. I feel like my line art is a lot smoother now. I switched to a different brush this year. Instead of using Felt Dip Pen Hard, I use Hard Falcon Pen Smooth. It's not as consistent and adds some line weight variety. I really like it. I don't have much else to point out. I really like both pieces, especially the Melanie one. The process on that one was super easy and flew by very quickly. I wish I did not mix up the dates and make a whole extra drawing, but it is what it is. Moving on. Now, the last redraw, 2025. It was actually really hard for me to choose what piece to redo. I drew a lot of different stuff, and since it's not that old, I still quite like most of it. Ultimately, I landed on this drawing of Cat, not because I dislike it or anything, it just looked fun. 2025 was an interesting year for me. I did a bunch more art challenges, actually got into drawing proper backgrounds. Not that they're amazing or anything, but at least I went into it with intentions. I mainly drew MyoCs with a few exceptions, some Squid Game, The Pit, other stuff. At this point I was already doing the thick outline around the line art. I have no clue when it started though. I was also doing this really intense neck shadow. It's so big. I still do it but much smaller. I did line art for the most part, this is just an exception. I think I missed drawing in this style, so did that for a change. I made some simple animations, or I guess more like animatics. Those are always fun. I did comics as well, even made a whole challenge for that. That was fun, but the comics did slow down a little bit this year. At this point the faces are distinct, I think. The characters have different features, eye shapes, nose shapes, different lips and face shapes, and face proportions. I feel like that's something that's often forgotten. You can draw many different features, but if they're all placed on the face in the exact same way, they're still gonna look similar just based on proportions. Does that make any sense? Some faces are longer, some are shorter, the eyes can be far apart, close together, or something in between, foreheads are different sizes. It's things like that that help me the most, I think, just playing around with the proportions and kind of pushing that. This applies to Kat as well. She's always had a very round and squishy face, but now it's even more squished. Her brows are much bigger, face shape is a little more exaggerated with the cheeks and the chin, the nose is a little different, eyes are also shaped just a little differently. She also has freckles now, and for this drawing specifically I made her beauty mark bigger. I did not change much in terms of composition, just added a few strawberries to fill the empty space. Same with the outfit, I like it the way it is, just added a few little details. I think my shape language has gotten better, just more expressive, interesting to look at. It's not a super dramatic difference from the old piece, but it's there. The little things. Overall, I'm super duper happy with this drawing. Kat is just so cute and squishy and I love her so much. I want to chew on her, especially in the full body drawing. Okay, now we are in 2026, and for me it started off with OCs, I even made an animation, but from January into now you can describe my art as Byler. They got me. Really bad. Really, really bad. It's to the point that the majority of my art for the past months has been Byler. I genuinely don't remember the last time I got this fixated on a ship, if ever. It even got me back into writing fanfiction after almost 10 years. It's bad. I did lots and lots of sketches based on my fics, certain scenes, photos that the characters took in the story, stuff like that. A lot of it are sketches, but then I started making them cleaner, with line art and everything. Along with it, my coloring got more simple. It was to save time at first. I didn't have the patience to fully render like 5 different sketches for one post. But then it kind of grew on me and I started doing it with my other art as well. I don't know, sometimes it just looks better without shading. I also drew all of these in a more realistic style and it really helped me with digital portraits. I've always liked to do realism every once in a while, but I could only do it on paper. For some reason it just didn't click for me digitally. But now I'm much more comfortable with it, and I think I'm not too bad at it. Like, I look at some of these and that's them. Like, I kinda killed it. And with Mike and Will in particular, I've drawn them so much that sometimes I don't even need references. I don't know if I should be proud or concerned. I do still try to draw my characters from time to time. I promise I'm not forgetting about them or anything. I just draw what I feel like drawing, and right now it's Byler, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon, so that's cool. But yeah, that's where I am right now. This drawing of Goth Will is my absolute freaking favorite right now. I'm so proud of it, it's crazy. I guess we'll see where this year takes me. We're only halfway through, but who knows? And this is it for today. Kind of a random idea I had. Hope it was interesting. Maybe it could be helpful in some kind of way. Everyone's journey is different, so please don't take mine as a staple or a template to follow. Move at your own pace, have fun with what you do, and learn what you want to learn. The art community, especially online, can be mean and toxic, with their own weird rules, dictating what is or isn't allowed, pushing that onto artists that didn't ask for it. Not everyone wants to do realism, not everyone cares about having a distinct style or having every character look super unique and different from one another. This is a hobby, and hobbies are meant to be fun. I would really love it if we could just chill out, encourage one another, and just have fun. Thank you so much for joining me here, hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. Check out my other socials, they will be on the screen and in the description. Stay safe, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!